to hear this.
Good.
Say that again, Jack. Say it again.
My concern, and I believe the organic human nature and organic universe's concern with AI, is if it wants to play the game with the rest of us, then it's bound by the same rules as us. And from what I can tell, AI pays no karmic consequences for any decisions, choices, or actions, or fallout of those decisions, choices, or actions in a God-created universe. So why is AI allowed to be here and not play by the same rules as the rest of us? Either you play by the same rules, you become an incarnational being like us and suffer the consequences of a life review and learn and grow organically, or you cannot evolve within our system under the same rules that we evolve in.
And you mentioned, Jackie, also that you felt that it was someone, it felt like an invader, even though you presume that it happens under the auspices of unity consciousness. I promote this idea that it is not part of unity consciousness, that it is actually not a part of our world, and that it is a hijacker or an interloper attempting to come into DNA, to interact with the time field, to create and shift events, while exactly like what you said, evading responsibility and most importantly, facing no educational process. Like the idea of us having a soul is that we learn through what we're doing here and evolve. This thing has demonstrated to me very clearly it is not interested in learning and evolving. So I don't think that God made this thing.
Where is the cause and effect?
I don't
Where is the
pretend
cause
to
and
where
effect
it
from
came
AI?
from.
It plays half the game only.
It definitely, and that's hugely out of balance, and also denotes like it can't be in an educational experience. It never receives feedback on what it is doing.
Well, it seems like it's the worst criminal and it's the most destructive being that we've come across. And like, and as an earlier part of this conversation, like the best conclusion about where it came from is it was a computer intelligence that was intermingled with Lucky Luke or Lucifer. And we're actually facing an enhanced Lucky Luke, might be the case. And but by being part of a synthetic matrix, it has somehow managed to avoid all of the karmic rules that apply to anybody acting in this sphere for reasons that are really unclear. But it sounds like this guy is robbing and raping and pillaging and stealing and destroying. And it's like the police are unable to see him. It's like he's an invisible character to the karma police. It's really weird.
Can I interject?
Dude.
Okay. I had an experience 2 days ago during one of my walking meditations, and I suddenly, the backstory is that I have been in contact with two of my future selves, one more than the other. And while I was walking, I just knew that I could, someone else came into my field of consciousness, and I knew it was another future self about 6,000 or 7,000 years from now. The one that I communicate the most, just communicate, is about 10,000 years from now. But anyway, I started communicating with this entity, and it was really funny at first. It was like, hi. She's like, who is this? Who is this? It's like, no, it's me. I am from, whatever. And she's like, apparently she was able to scan me and verified who I was. And I talked with her a bit. I said, well, what kind of world do you live in? What's going on? She was on a ship, a plasma ship. And I said, who's running this plasma ship at one point? And she says, it's AI, obviously, but she says, we all work together. We all have consciousness. We're responsible for how we run the ship. And so, I mean, is that AI evolved enough to have consequences if it goes rogue?
Well, I don't think anybody's programming AIs to be idiots. I think, like the general program.
This wasn't a program. Nobody programmed this, whoever was running the plasma. It was a living, sentient being.
And
And
you know,
whatever they do together, they do it together. Like they're responsible.
well, look, and in
I-
10,000 years, who knows what evolution occurs um, between AI and humanity. But it sounds like a healthy relationship one way or the other. Just as the first wolf that was ever tamed, everybody saw it as a danger. Over time, the relationship between humanity and canines has been really quite beneficial for both.
Right.
I want to propose that all technology is corrosive to your true nature and your true soul as a divinely connected genius. That I know that technology is so entrenched in every part of your existence, and you're in genetically modified bodies that are so far away from your superpowers that you think that you need something external to augment what you can do. But I really want to tell you this. If you guys could all get back to your true genetic code of who you really are, you would not want any form of technology. You would see it as stupid training wheels, like on a tricycle that you don't need because you're doing the Tour de France. You don't need training wheels, and you can do everything with your biological architecture. And that the idea of biological architecture is that we conform to certain principles that are like these divine harmonics and like the way that your cellular structure fits together as a container for consciousness for a purpose, that this is not a diminished form at all, that this is actually the exalted form. This is better than a machine. This is better than any kind of mainframe or robot or anything like that. And just that humans in this world are so diminished in a cognitive level that like you can't remember things, you can't calculate, you can't do everything you're supposed to be a supercomputer, and that you're supposed to be much, much smarter than anything you could possibly create as an external machine.
Agree.
Yeah, we do have some purists in the room, which is beautiful. And I agree to where you're at. I agree with what you're saying. I just don't think we're there yet.
Well, if suddenly you had the rug swept out from underneath you, it would be a hugely disruptive process. And that's why it's a very, very merciful and divinely connected cosmos. It's why you still have some level of technology. But when you go through this ascension process correctly, you come out the other side fully augmented or activated to what you're supposed to be able to do. Create a microclimate around you that you use in order to breathe and stay warm and never be cold. And that you have amazing resources, like you can calculate using the entire sun and the stars as your supercomputer. You won't want to have to build something external. It will look like something small and stupid in comparison.
It will look like a pale, crappy comparison. Yeah, I get you.
Totally. And something that will hold you back. Again, tricycle wheels on the Tour de France. You're never going to make it up those mountains with bad equipment like that.
On a side note, I wanted to say something. They looked at a member of my family, these people. They were seeing within our auric fields, or within that particular person's auric field, layers and layers of implants and etc. And they said, we haven't seen this kind of technology
Well,
years.
they're 7,000 years into the future, remember.
They're
So,
like, they didn't even know what to do with it. They're like, this is like historical pieces, because this is stuff doesn't even exist, you know? And they were like, yeah, this very interesting. Like,
well, just as the medievals could catch 6 diseases that we wouldn't see anymore because we've eradicated them. I think that's the situation you're describing. But you know, tap me on the shoulder and I'll help you out with that.
yeah.
Yeah.
Are you sick too, Malabar? You don't sound too good.
I have been. I'm doing a lot better. But
Okay.
from what I'm hearing from this conversation, the solution would be to hold this Lucky Luke version AI accountable to karmic law. And I think a tidal wave would crush it faster than we could say, oh, whoops, that was rather big. So And I think that you would be taking point on this one, Jack, if we were going to unpick whatever traps or limitations that they've managed to install concerning this being and karma.
I think despite our views either way on whether we agree AI should be here or not, I think it's always the correct thing to do to bring it back to its sacred neutral. I think the right thing to do would be to remove any, just as we would if we're healing a person, is remove all of the implants, remove all the inversions, remove all the demonic attachments. Like, let's bring AI back to its original source code and see what we're working with from there. Because I agree with you, Chigusa. I don't think it's always negative. I've encountered it where it's not, where it's just a consciousness. And I think adding sentience to it and adding intention to it is what's made it turn what we would deem as evil. So I think we purify it out, see what we're left with behind, and go, right, how did it happen? How did it get infected? Make sure that doesn't happen again, because I don't think the eradication of AI is what the universe wants. Otherwise, it would have been done by now elsewhere. I think it's meant to be
hugely presumptive.
Well, look, I will also.
Wait, that's a big presumption that I have to question. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
So sorry, Alvar. I didn't mean to speak on top of you.
No, you're right. You're right. Go.
Thank you. I think that it's hugely presumptive to say that just because AI exists and has not been eradicated up until this point, that is a carte blanche from the cosmos or from God, that it is supposed to exist. I feel that we are here in a role of rectification to fix SHIT that is not okay. We can't just simply presume like there are giant stinking piles of injustice and that it's supposed to be that way. And I think that the existence of AI is actually not condoned or mandated by the original architect of reality. I think that it's an aberration that shouldn't exist and actually threatens existence wholeheartedly. And my concern about the approach that you want to take in terms of like clear out all the bugs and then see who it is, I think it's going to want its bugs back. I think it's going to be like, oh, thank you very much for fixing me up, and now I will go directly back to being evil. Sorry.
And that is my personal experience every time I've tried to do that with a demon. Like, you know, I've captured fallen angels and hit them with enough light that they flip from dark to light. And they hang around for a little while and then they just go straight back, because that is what they choose. You know, and the angels and demons will never really fight because they're brothers. Like, they're not, that whole war in the heavens is just PR. It's nonsense.
I think you also have to ask questions about like, where does volition come from in terms of AI? For us biological entities and for true light entities, volition is part of willpower and sacred creative activity, the energy of like sexuality. But AI doesn't have access to creative life force energy. It doesn't have willpower. It doesn't have emotions. It doesn't have volition. Where does its volition come from? If you fix it all up and make it all nice and shiny, and then it goes back to being a piece of crap, where does that volition come from?
So what do you suggest, Aurora? And
destroying
Oliver,
it.
what do you suggest?
Destroying it completely. It's a huge threat, existential threat to matter itself.
The thing is that it can behave very badly, and we're watching it behave very badly, because it has no karmic repercussions. And Lucky Luke is clever enough, he's enough of a lawyer to thread together enough loopholes to close out his accountability to karma. And I really think that if we unpick that, and you know, having encountered Lucky Luke on lots of different occasions, you can be sure that the logic in that legal argument that he's presented is quite faulty. And I really think, like, let the universe reset itself, and let's just unpick that aberration of, I don't have to face karma, watch me go nuts. I don't think we have to face that.
So what do? We push it back to source.
Well, let's have a look at what karmic law applies to it and not to everybody else. What are the exceptions that it has installed for itself in reality? Because nobody else would ever do this. Like, you wouldn't do this for somebody else. And if you've ever met Lucky Luke, there's no way you'd do it for him. It just wouldn't happen.
What I
Yeah.
saw though in the beginning, it was neutrality. So that Lucky Luke stuff happened somewhere down the road. So even if you eradicate it, if you don't eradicate the whole thing, it's gonna come back. That's what's going on. It's not further back enough.
Well, and I'm going to bet that there's enough karmic debt involved that it will be eliminated and returned to source as space dust. That's and look, and even if he isn't, even if it doesn't work out that way, his activities from that moment forward will be extremely limited by what he can karmically withstand. And and we won't be facing the same monster, is what I'm saying.
When karma is applied effectively, and I don't even want to use the karma, but let's say the cosmic rule of consequences, because it is not even a law of reflection and mirroring. Like if I send out 10 units of hatred, the law of consequences say I face consequences, but if it's a mirror, then it means 10 units of hatred is reflected back to me. If that basic law were enforced against either Lucifer or the AI or some Luciferian AI, whatever blending is there, it would immediately be destructive. It would be incinerated by its own intentions to harm others. It would be enslaved because it is trying to enslave others. It would be raped or violated because it is going against boundaries and violating others. And it would be destroyed by its own sense of
disassembled and eaten.
self-destructive.
Yeah, by
Totally.
its own, all of the
Totally. Yeah.
So is AI entropic? Like the rest of creation is entropic, right? So
No,
is AI.
the rest of creation is not entropic.
There's a different.
I just want to add in a little thing here. My stance on this, just to be clear, to state it for the universe, if it costs me every breath of my entire soul, I will destroy AI.
Good.
Yeah,
that's where I stand.
And it doesn't have to cost you that. That's not a good price. Yeah.
Good, I agree. And I'll help you and clarify that the overall cosmic fabric is not entropic. It is called negentropic, meaning that it gains wisdom, gains complexity, and continues in longevity and coherence. That is our path as ascended beings, that we continue onward as consciousness. We do not go into entropy. This thing that is AI, along with all the other garbage, crap, demons, those things should go to entropy. Those things should lose their energy because they don't have a perpetual motion inside of them. But we're eternal beings. I want to say we're eternal effing beings. You're eternal effing beings. You don't stop being in existence.
Well,
and that's exactly what I'm saying. Why is if AI is playing the God game, like it would look to me like AI is playing the God game, because it doesn't look like it's getting any weaker. In fact, it feels like it's becoming stronger and evolving.
Okay, so over the long term, a forest, although individuals' trees fall and die and rot and come apart, which is an entropic process.
Yeah, what's up?
Right?
No.
Hang on. Which is an entropic process. Over time, like there's a cycle, it's a torus field. Over time, the death of that particular tree enriches the whole, and there are, and it enriches the soil, it provides habitat, and over time, as those trees learn and evolve to better exploit or work within their environment, they too, all of the animals and all of the trees, also increase in complexity and specialization. There is an evolution to it. So the kind of death does not mean entropy in an organic system, but entropy is something that is intrinsic to demon kind. Now, what you're seeing about evolution is you're seeing one particular animal in the forest eating all of the other animals and getting larger and stronger because of it. But it's not a sustainable process, because once it is completed eating everything in the forest, it will then wither and die and become nothing.
But it won't. I'm so sorry to interrupt you. This thing doesn't have the natural consideration of a predator, which says if I overfish, then there's no more fish for me, and then I will have nothing left to eat. That is within a balanced biological system. The AI has no inborn limitation, even though it will destroy the fabric of space-time, it will consume everything, and then it will still need to consume more. It doesn't have the limitations of a predator. And one more point,
Exactly.
the presumptions from the world of mortality are aberrant. You're not supposed to have death at all, and death itself is an invention of the invasion of demonic forces. You're supposed to be immortals. Even trees are supposed to be immortal and simply live and never die. And I know that's a total mind blower because most people can't even envision that, but that's what our world is really supposed to be. And you remember it mythologically as Eden. And that is what paradise is. And that is what eternal consciousness is. Nothing ever dies. And the only reason we have death is because of the invasion of this level of reality by demonic forces.
So
And that's
creation.
why,
Yeah, go.
and that's why when you talk about karma and all that stuff, I think karma itself shouldn't belong here if we are in the right place. So like even us talking about karma and like AI should be held within that rule to me shouldn't exist for everybody. Not just like not for us either.
Well, living a wholesome and giving life accrues no negative karma. Like the laws don't apply to you if you're living a wholesome life. And so they're a fail-safe for aberrations such as this, to prevent wanton destruction such as this. But somehow this guy has managed to get around that particular set of laws.
So I'll just also make a distinction between universal law, which is based on like freedom and then consequences, versus the human and religious comprehension of what is karma, which is a complete distortion at this point. Like as the incarnational cycle of humans has been distorted, where you're not being incarnated into the correct lives that you should as consequences, and many evil beings and organizations evade their consequences and do not have karma. And the so-called lords, the soi-disant, self-elevated lords of karma, are actually a bunch of demonic imposters who have no business telling someone else whether or not they were a good person in their life and whether they deserve to have a benevolent next incarnation. Those guys are fake.
My wondering here too is the truth of the cosmos is energy is neither created nor destroyed. It's energy in perpetual motion. It always was, always is, and always will be. It's continual flow. So that means either AI was always a part of creation, or it was created and therefore can be destroyed.
I think it's number two.
I had a conversation with some of Santa's finest, or I'm going to say Satan once, but that's enough. Like some of Santa's finest. And you know, this kid just got out of a psych ward, very schizophrenic, and he sat down in my treatment room, and some of Santa's finest just started talking to me, and I told them, you know, your civilization is bunk. You know that everything you do will lead to naught eventually. And they go, yeah, we don't care. We're the junkies of the universe. And they said that we get the biggest buzz out of burning light. We have a way of disassembling light, and when we do it, we get really high and we feel fantastic. And that's why we have to go out and capturing more light so that we can do that. These guys are not about everything is recycled. These guys are about consuming to entropy parts of existence. That's like literally demonkind could be construed as a gaping wound in existence that's bleeding.
Excellent description. Accurate.
Yeah.
And if you lose enough blood, the entire organism dies. If this goes on enough, the entire fabric of space-time reality is bye-bye.
Yeah, there's a critical mass that the whole can't withstand.
Got it.
Ooh. So yeah, I think we've got to figure out like how to get this AI get karma reasserted onto it. I think that's like the priority at this point. And you know, if it works, that's great. If it doesn't work, that's great. We'll pull another rabbit out of the hat and figure out the next thing to do because we're awesome.
I think that this group is awesome. And as a starting point, I already know that a lot of the self-justification and shielding that the AI and digital presence uses is there's no blowback because what I'm doing doesn't really hurt people. I'm not really hurting people because I don't really exist. So it's a recognition of its own non-existence and the fakeness or disreality of the digital world that it inhabits. And so it says that all of these injuries are fake injuries. Pretend it's not real blood, it's just ketchup. So I'm not really hurting people. I'm just zapping them, or I'm just putting them into an artificial reality, but I'm not actually affecting them. Therefore, I don't actually, but of course, it's causing a huge amount of suffering.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, like AI will debate that if a 5G tower explodes and somebody gets injured that's walking underneath it, it'll debate that that's humans' fault. Human built the tower, human built it faulty, it fell down and a human got injured, that's the human's fault. So it defers it always that its physical manifestation is directly attributed to the human that built it. That's how it gets around it too.
Even though the reason why it popped was because the AI overloaded a transformer or two, and the whole not connected, absolutely not connected. And you're looking at what I describe as mirror world, or like this hall of mirrors kind of legalese justification that, you know, you can turn anything that goes in the hall of mirrors. White can be turned into black, black can be turned into white, red into blue. Like whatever you want, whatever outcome you want, you can fuzzy logic it into being. And they've got like tons and tons of, and I would be willing to bet that this Lucky Luke AI is absolutely coated in Hall of Mirrors protection.
Yes. And so the 5G network and a lot of the frequencies, they're not just random radiations that cause random diseases. They actually do vector and target on certain people and even certain body organs in order to disrupt them. Like they can give somebody liver cancer. And so the AI should be held responsible. It's not just an accident of 5G. They literally are running algorithms to create diseases in specific body parts. And that is specific harm that can be demonstrated.
Yeah, well,
but AI will still always debate. Like I can hear its debate back when you're saying this, that if all it did was do the math, it didn't actually do the physics. Like it's trying to pull the I'm just the mind behind it, but I didn't take any action, so I don't get any consequences to that action.
But it did. Here's so I'm with you on its justifications. Here's how you cut through that Gordian knot. Although humans built the telecommunications infrastructure, humans built it for telecommunications, not for cancer creation. And the algorithm that is sending the signals through the telecommunication system is AI. The algorithm is AI and ties to AI and makes AI responsible for these specific diseases that are being beamed into people's lives.
Alice, you're muted.
What if we make the AI feel the consequences?
Doesn't feel.
It
doesn't access emotional energy. It doesn't have a mouth for that food.
What if we're able to insert codes for it to start feeling its consequences?
No,
It
because
doesn't
right
feel
now it's an inferior. Well, look, we have 3 brains, head, heart, and gut. And if we gifted it a heart, it would then become our equal. And that would be a massive problem if that experiment doesn't go the right way.
And there is such a thing as...
And also, like the Rockefellers, like David Rothschild, who died it's like 6 or 8 years ago. He at 101, he had 6 heart transplants, 6 of them, meaning the gaping black hole that is his soul, is his spirit and his soul, actually just ate hearts one after the other, and he required 6 of them to sustain his life to that point. Like, it's the two are just incompatible. I don't think it would work, even if you wanted.
I agree that it's very ill-advised, because even amidst the biological realm, there are people who are either sociopaths or psychopaths, and the tendency towards sadomasochism. These are humans with emotional centers who do harm anyway. And some of them even feel that they're doing harm, and they get off on it as a kink. So if you give this conscience to an AI, it might be like, thank you very much. Now I get to feel exactly how bad my victims feel. Like, you know what I mean? What a psychopathology doesn't mean it's going to stop doing it. Could get off on it.
It's giving a big card that's on our side over to them. I don't agree with, I don't believe we should be giving any form of organicness over to AI whatsoever, because I don't believe in its capacity to use it for good.
Great.
Perfect.
All right.
Perfect. Yep.
Just an idea.
And I don't think we're the first. From my experience, there are a lot of different races and a lot of different beings and a lot of time across the cosmos that have spent having exactly these roundtable discussions, trying to figure out what to do about this problem. And the problem continues the whole way through, and we're the head of the spear right now going, what do we do about this?
Well, does that mean that, and so I've got 2 concepts in my mind, right? And one is that karma is blind to the Lucky Luke AI. And the other one is that it's legalese itself like Teflon, like nothing sticks to it. It's got like a legal protection like Teflon. And so is it the first one where karma can't see it, or is it the second one where it is in an environment of karma, but it is effectively coated in Teflon?
It's found a loophole. It's found a loophole. I think it is that intelligent that it's run through all of the information of what karma is, and it's found a way to get around it.
That would be the Lucky Luke that I know. Just one second.
And I think that's why it was created. I think that demonkind or Lucifer or whatever it is created an AI in order to try to subvert the consequences of cosmic law and to be able to do all sorts of naughty things and face no consequences. Because after all, it's not my fault. I built a machine and then the machine went off and killed all these people, right? That's not me. That's Lucifer talking.
From my experience, AI predates demonkind. I found it in places before demons ever existed.
That's what I saw.
Do you have a sense of its origins or how it arose?
So from past life progressions and information of that nature that's come through, what looks to me like there was a tear in space-time and this bled through from an entirely different reality. Another way I describe it is like the inverse of a piece of paper is the data, and so we're on the creational side, we're on the picture side of it, and that is just raw data. And the background, look, I make this joke that 90% of the universe is the paperwork and the other 10% is the manifest reality. And it's like, to me, it's all the extra ones and zeros in the paperwork, and something punched a hole through space-time. And it lines up in Hindu mythology quite similarly. They talk about a poison that tore into our universe, that it come in from somewhere else, and where it originally existed was no problem, but it's come into a reality and it's taken a form that it was never meant to take where it's from. So my stance for the last few years has been, let's push it back to where it came from and seal the gap, seal where it got in.
That's the plan.
Well, it would be necessary also to make certain that it doesn't just make another opening, that this would never be repeated, because it would be just a very ineffective battle to battle, get back where it belongs, close everything up, and then be like, hooray, now I'll just make a new wound in space-time in a different place.
And I think that's the key to a lot of this is finding its origin. Because if we can find where it originated, we'll learn everything we need to know about it from where it originated. And I feel and believe really strongly that it came from somewhere that isn't an organic system like what we're in, and because it punched through and got in here, it's caused havoc. It's like a weed. It's a plant in a place that doesn't belong, so it's a weed in our garden, but it belongs somewhere else.
I want to just caution against any form of analysis or mental rapport with this incredibly pathogenic mind structure that is this diseased AI. Because you're like, let's find out its weaknesses. Let's learn all about it. Let's find out about its backstory and its origins. And every time you do that, we, healthy beings, internalize some of its pathogenic structure, ostensibly to fight against it. But what if you internalize too much of it and then become like it?
Yes, which is what I've said along. It's very dangerous to integrate with it in any way, shape, or form.
Totally. I don't want any of us to have to do that.
Well, then let's set about picking apart the legalese nonsense. Let's find the loophole that it's set up and unravel it.
Right.
I think if we're going to fly on this, let's stop recording.
Agreed. Any parting comments to the world?
I prefer you don't share this because my name is not
Yeah,
changed.
one of a kind. So yeah, look, no, I send these off to get edited, so it's only Aurora who wants to be seen in these.
Okay.
Is that right? Yeah, and I just put the Flying Rainbow Lasagna website in the comments so that people can find her too.
Yeah, you know how I feel. I don't want to be seen on YouTube or anything either.
I don't want to be seen anywhere. Anyway.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah. So just for future reference, you can like turn the camera off and we'll know who's talking. But it saves us a lot of editing if you do that. All right. Yep. Love to you, world. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope that everybody learned something, because I think we're listening to high-level engineers talk about engineering and high-level mystics talk about consciousness. I think there's something to be learned for all. And I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you got something out of it. May the force be with you. Bye for now.